Look, I've got to be honest. The more I look at this situation, the more it feels like this team is heading into one of its most interesting seasons in a long time. There are still a lot of unanswered questions, but that's exactly what makes it exciting. We're seeing young players fighting for bigger roles, new faces being asked to make an impact, and several position battles that could completely change the direction of the team over the next couple of years. What stands out to me is that there's real competition everywhere. Nobody is just being handed anything. Whether it's on offense, defense, or even at quarterback, there are opportunities for players to step up and prove they deserve a bigger piece of the spotlight. And honestly, that's the kind of environment that usually brings out the best in a football team. The next few months are going to tell us a lot about who's ready to take that next step and who's still got work to do. Right now, there's plenty of reason for optimism, but there are also some big questions that still need answers. That's why every practice, every preseason snap, and every roster decision is going to matter. If you enjoyed this take, make sure to hit that like button and drop a comment below. Let me know. Are you feeling optimistic right now, or is it still here we go, with a little bit of caution? The latest wave of discussion surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers is revealing something important about how this roster is being viewed internally and by the fan base, and several key topics are beginning to separate themselves from the rest. Based on the latest fan questions and responses surrounding the team, one of the biggest talking points centers on Roman Wilson and what his role could look like moving forward. While some fans are already projecting a massive breakout season, including suggestions that he could become a second-team All-Pro, the current expectations being discussed are much more measured. The belief is that Wilson's best football is still ahead of him, but not necessarily at the level of becoming one of the top 4 receivers in the entire league. Instead, the focus is on finding the role that best fits his skill set. The discussion points toward Wilson being more naturally suited to operate as a slot receiver, rather than being used primarily on the outside. The reasoning behind that perspective is based on his size and playing style, with the idea that his strengths are maximized when he can work inside as a technician rather than being asked to consistently win on the perimeter. At the same time, there is growing confidence in other members of the receiving corps. The expectation being discussed is that DK and Pittman will occupy the top 2 spots in the rotation, while Jeremy Bernard is generating significant optimism as a candidate to secure the number 3 receiver role. That leaves Wilson potentially competing for snaps as the 4th option in the rotation, although there is still a belief that this could end up being the most productive season of his professional career so far. The key question is not whether he can contribute, but rather how large that contribution will ultimately become. Another major topic attracting attention involves the defensive side of the football, and specifically how the Steelers could deploy their linebackers and defensive backs in passing situations. Much of that discussion revolves around Jalen Ramsey, Patrick Queen, and Peyton Wilson. There appears to be significant intrigue regarding how responsibilities will be distributed, especially when it comes to communication duties and coverage assignments. Peyton Wilson is viewed as a very capable coverage player, creating an interesting challenge for the coaching staff when deciding who should remain on the field during obvious passing downs. One of the concepts being discussed involves utilizing Jalen Ramsey in a versatile linebacker-type role during passing situations. Such an approach would potentially allow both Ramsey and Peyton Wilson to remain on the field together, creating a combination of strong coverage ability at the second level of the defense. There is also discussion surrounding increased communication responsibilities for Wilson this season, something that could influence how the coaching staff structures defensive packages moving forward. What seems clear from the conversation is that Ramsey is expected to play a significant role and remain on the field consistently, while the exact distribution of responsibilities among the rest of the group remains one of the more fascinating storylines to watch. The quarterback position continues to generate enormous interest as well, particularly when looking beyond the immediate future. One scenario being examined involves Will Howard and what would need to happen for him to become the Steelers' starting quarterback in 2027. The path being discussed starts with Howard earning the QB2 position ahead of Mason Rudolph. From there, opportunity would become the defining factor. If Howard were to receive playing time and perform effectively in meaningful situations while also helping the team win games, his standing within the organization could rise dramatically. The conversation highlights how important real game experience could be in shaping future decisions at the position. At the same time, Drew Aller remains a central figure in long-term quarterback discussions. The belief being expressed is that if Howard does not receive opportunities to prove himself on the field, Aller could enter future competitions with an advantage due to the investment already made in him and the additional time he would spend developing within the system. As a result, the battle for the future of the quarterback room remains far from settled. The 2027 quarterback class is also receiving attention, although there is recognition that projections remain highly uncertain at this stage. Several names are being monitored as talented prospects, but the larger point being emphasized is that quarterback development can change dramatically over time. Some players exceed expectations, while others fail to meet them. Because of that reality, there is caution against drawing firm conclusions too early regarding who could eventually emerge as the best option for Pittsburgh in future drafts. Elsewhere on the roster, fans are already debating which young player could take the biggest leap forward. Several names continue to surface in those discussions. Troy Fautanu is viewed as a player with substantial upside, especially with attention focused on his role at left tackle. Derek Harmon is another player receiving strong support as someone capable of delivering a major season. Peyton Wilson appears once again as a player many believe could elevate his status significantly, while Joey Porter Jr. is already being discussed as someone who could potentially move from being considered a very good cornerback into the conversation surrounding the elite players at his position. Perhaps the most intriguing defensive discussion involves the possibility of a more aggressive and creative pass-rushing approach. There is considerable excitement surrounding packages that would move T.J. Watt around the line of scrimmage while utilizing multiple blitz threats from different positions. The reasoning is straightforward. The Steelers possess several players capable of contributing as blitzers, including Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Jalen Ramsey, and Deshaun Elliott. With that collection of talent available, the defense may have the flexibility to disguise intentions, pressure opposing quarterbacks from multiple angles, and create difficult pre-snap reads. The hope attached to that strategy is not only generating more sacks, but also improving the team's ability to force opponents into second and long, third and medium, and third and long situations where those pressure packages become even more effective. Additional attention is being placed on run defense improvements, with Sebastian Joseph Day specifically mentioned as a player who could help strengthen that area. If those improvements materialize, the overall defensive ceiling could become extremely high. The quarterback conversation does not stop with Howard and Aller. Aaron Rodgers remains one of the most debated figures connected to the team. While opinions continue to vary, there is a belief that many criticisms stem from personal opinions rather than purely football-related evaluations. The discussion suggests that while Rodgers may no longer be operating at an MVP level, he can still function effectively by protecting the football, distributing it efficiently, and delivering consistent production within the offense. Combined with optimism about the receiving group, there is confidence that Rodgers could produce a stronger season than many outsiders expect. Finally, another quarterback name generating discussion is Brendan Sorsby. The debate centers on whether the Steelers should pursue him through the supplemental draft, and what level of draft capital would justify such a move. While there is acknowledgement of his talent and physical tools, there is also recognition that investing heavily in another young quarterback would have significant implications considering the organization has already invested in both Drew Aller and Will Howard. As things stand, the expectation being discussed is that the Steelers will spend this season evaluating the quarterbacks already in the building before making larger decisions about the future. With so many storylines developing at once, from Roman Wilson's role to Jalen Ramsey's defensive deployment, to the future battle between Drew Aller and Will Howard, and the growing expectations surrounding Pittsburgh's defense, which of these topics do you think will have the biggest impact on the Steelers moving forward? That's going to do it for today's discussion. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you agree with these expectations? Or do you think there's a player or storyline that everyone is overlooking right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because Steelers Nation always has something to say, and I read as many comments as I can. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest Steelers updates. And when you're done, click on the video that's on your screen right now. Trust me, if you care about what's happening with this team, you won't want to miss what we're talking about next. Stay locked in, stay passionate, and as always, here we go.